You're listening to Free Mama Radio, where we believe you can have both a successful business and show up as the mom you want to be. I'm your host, Lauren Golden, a mom who built a full-time income working part-time hours. Now, I help other moms like you learn how to work from home on your own terms, take control of your schedule, and make more money so you can live a totally awesome, guilt-free life. I am on a mission to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. So if you've been wondering, can I really have it all? This podcast will give you the answers.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Free Mama Radio. I'm super excited to be here with my friend. I'm going to missay your name. I should have asked you that before we started. I was about to just say Brooke, and I'm like, I can't just call her Brooke. We'll edit this out or not because it's all good. Very authentic. It's all good. And of course, she thinks it's Team Allobee. Brooke, how do you pronounce your last name correctly?
It's Markevicius.
Markevicius. I mean, that's fair that I had to ask that. My maiden name is Gillenborg. No one could say it my entire life. I got very lucky to marry into a name that's very easy for people to say, Belle Golden. But I always, because of that, I'm traumatized with not wanting to mispronounce someone's name.
Yeah.
Because it bothered me so much. I'm like, couldn't you just ask instead of butcher it? So we're leaving this in. Welcome to Free Mama Radio.
I know. And it's so important. We just hired a new assistant and she called me out. She was like, no, you say I was calling her Kessa and it's Keisha. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so glad you told me. And so you got to just say it. You got to ask her.
Say it. And I teach my kids this at the park too. It's they're like, I don't know their name. I'm like, go ask their name. You should ask. And this is good marketing advice too, by the way, because our favorite word to hear, everybody's favorite word to hear is the sound of their own name, in case you guys didn't know. So as you're networking, it is important to learn people's name and say it correctly. So Brooke, thank you for your patience, guidance. And we all just have learned so much and we just got started. And if you guys don't know my friend Brooke, she is the founder and CEO of Allobee. You guys might know her as the founder of Momentum Market. And we're actually going to talk about that and unpack why they rebranded here during today's episode. But it is a one-stop business solution for solopreneurs, small business owners, and startup founders. She loves supporting moms in business, which is why she is such a good friend to me and all of the free mamas listening today and getting them work, which is what we're here for. She is also a mom to 2 kids and she lives in Durham, North Carolina. And I scooted just to the east of you in my RV trip and we just couldn't make it work this time. The next time I head east, I'm coming in for a hug. Global pandemic or not, I'm coming in for a hug.
I know.
Well, Brooke, welcome to Free Mama Radio. Why don't we back up a little bit? Because you have first of all, before we even hit record, you are doing some really remarkable, tremendous things, not just in your business, but outside of your business to help other people. And I'm just so darn impressed by you. I have adored you since the first time our paths actually crossed. But let's back up your pre-Allobee, pre-Momentum. Where did your career start? How did you get here? Because it's not like you just woke up one day in your early 20s, and now I run this corporation and I'm doing.
No.
Yeah. So where did you start?
Definitely not an overnight success. No one is really, but I actually was going to be a teacher. And then I graduated in 2008 during the recession and no one was hiring even for teachers. And so I got a job thanks to Obama's Reinvestment Act and got a job as a caseworker at a nonprofit and worked my way up in nonprofit into nonprofit management. And I was the youngest person managing a domestic violence shelter and had to have 30 employees under me when I was 23. So the joys that I've learned from just that experience. But I loved working in nonprofit, loved serving and helping people, but it was just really overwhelming and something that I knew was going to burn me out over time. So I was looking for what I could do next. And I actually met my husband who was finishing up his degree in computer science. And I was like, what is this world of tech? My mom's a preacher, or my dad's a preacher, my mom's a teacher. And that was my worldview. I had no idea that there was this whole thing out there about technology and that you could go in and have a whole career there. And so when he got a job at Microsoft, I decided, okay, well, you're making the money right now. I'm going to go to grad school. And so I got my master's in computer information systems from Boston University and specialized in web development and IT project management, and dove into the world of tech. And that's where I got a job with Postmates, and I was one of their first 100 employees and helped to launch their Southeast region and help in operations and product, and loved it. Loved the fast-paced world of a startup. I think any entrepreneur would. But then I had my daughter, and I went back to work really quickly and realized that it was not a good, flexible environment. I was pumping in the bathroom and in the car, and I just knew that that isn't what I wanted for my life. So I quit with no real plan and stumbled into the world of freelancing. So that's kind of the first part that led me to the next 5 years that would lead to where we are now. But I was one of the moms that in many ways got pushed out of the workforce due to the lack of flexibility.
And you know what? If 2020 isn't a year for that, I don't know what is. My husband is sending me articles like, it's sad we live together. You think he would just show them to me, but no, he actually does in fact text them to me from like across the room. Yeah. But there's been like article after article of like women being pushed out. And I think he's kind of going like, your message is needed right now. And I'm sure that's what you're picking up too. It's like now more than ever, moms need to know about these alternatives to being able to have some sort of, financial stability coming in.
It is. I mean, it's really crazy. I think the latest statistic was that I think recently 865,000 women were forced out of the workforce in the last month.
Wow. I mean, okay. We have a lot of feelings there. Yeah. We're not going to go there quite yet.
So yes, what we're doing, both you and me, is extremely
matters. Yeah, it matters because, I'm all about preaching that you do have choices. And, I hope that women choose it because they want to, and I help empower them. But I think that's what's so upsetting when it's like, these people don't have a choice. Yeah. And so how can we still show them it's going to be okay? There was an alternative here all along. Yeah, it's hard. So what are the things I super picked up on that I'm sure other people did as well, Brooke, during kind of your the first part of your professional career is managing 30 people at 23, things I wrote down is that I say all the time to my moms, but you're such a living example of is a figure it out attitude. You just have to be a go-getter. There's not a roadmap for this. Yeah. And I wrote down the word failure because failure is something that so many people are afraid of. But I think when you kind of cross this little hill and well, it's not really a little hill, it's a ginormous mountain, really. But when you get to the other side of the mountain that is failure, in air quotes, since they're just listening right now, our relationship with it changes. I bet what you know now to run your company, you probably know, not because you learned it in grad school, not because you heard somebody talk about it at an event, but because you experienced the hardship of not knowing that thing, of not knowing how to be a good leader, of not knowing how to manage people. And I'm not saying you were bad at your job at 23, but it was probably trial by fire, right? It's listen, you're here and you got to figure it out. And then I can't remember if I said, but go-getter, you just if you wanted to work at a startup, you just had to be a go-getter. You had to figure out what needed to be done. Can you think of any stories or examples? I mean, I'm sure you're nodding, so I'm hitting the nail on the head, but so many people, and I'm sure you've witnessed this, they're afraid to get started because they think they have to have it figured out and perfect and know what to do. But Brooke is such an example of the most successful people. They're not waiting. They're just going in.
Yeah. No, it's so true. And I find it slightly ironic that our tagline at Postmates was just ship it. And so all of our shirts on the back said ship it. And that's kind of become my little theme, is that you just have to get it out there. You just have to try. You just have to say yes. You have to be okay with failure. And I think one thing that women, especially, and a lot of moms as women, we really struggle with that shame. So not as much about actually failing, but how are people going to feel about us if we do fail? And what's that shame going to be that surrounds that? And I personally, and I think you know this, but maybe you don't, but it is on some of my podcast episodes, but I was in a really bad marriage before I found my husband. And I stayed so much in that shame in that relationship, and it did me no good, no good service. And So ever since I left that relationship, I was like, screw shame. Like, I'm just going to do what feels good for me and how I want to go about life. And I think that that's been a huge driving factor in kind of some ways, like, yeah, if you're in a really bad relationship, they're usually putting you down just as much as like society might put you down for certain things. And just knowing that that doesn't help you get where you want to go. And so kind of proving them wrong and kind of going at it in your own way. So that's kind of a driving factor behind another reason why I just say yes to a lot of things.
That's so beautiful. So you kind of gave us the pre-frame. What happened after Postmates? Catch us up to speed. How did we get to Momentum and now Allobee?
So I freelanced and specifically did web development for solo entrepreneurs that were females, predominantly moms and early stage founders that were moms as well, and just fell in love with this group of women. It was a great way for me as a new mom to connect with these women that still were doing things for themselves and were loving being a mom, but also loving having something on their own. And so it really inspired me, and I loved working with them and hearing their stories and helping to support them. And then I got really busy. A lot of people were giving me jobs. And so I started outsourcing and subcontracting to other freelancers and really built my own freelance agency, kind of without intent of doing that, and loved it. And then I knew there was something else for me, and what I wanted to do. I wasn't sure exactly what that was, but I had always wanted a place that I could go in person to connect with other female business owners, especially moms. And I loved the idea of a co-working space, but I had my kids at home and I needed a place that I could take them. And so when a good friend of mine approached me about co-founding a co-working space for moms, I was like, yes, I'm all in. I'll do it. I never thought I would want to do a brick and mortar, but it taught me a lot about our brick and mortar clients that we have now at Allobee and the hardships that they deal with. And so I'm really glad that I did that. And that's really where the idea for Momentum Market and now Allobee came from, because I saw all of these female business owners that were moms coming together, supporting one another, buying and selling each other's goods and services, bartering with one another, sitting down for a virtual, or not virtual at the time, but an in-person chat with each other, and having literal coffee together and chatting about how they can support one another and give each other advice. And I thought this is a beautiful little community and microeconomy, but this can happen on a lot bigger scale. And so that's really when I took that tech background and said, okay, let's put this together into one. And I decided to go all in on it and have been working on the whole concept of it for almost 2 years now and full time on it for a little over a year.
That's amazing. And so every time I talk to you, Brooke, one of the things I'm always like, I'm so out of my league. Like every time I talk to you, it feels like a Shark Tank conversation. Like you've got investors and like, all of these like really important people that have been mentors in your life and you've been connected to. Like, did you know that that's what you were building when you first started? Like, did you know that this was going to grow to such an impactful scale?
Not really. I mean, I had the idea, the very beginning of the idea when I was nursing my 6-month-old at the time, my second, and postpartum life and all the hours you spend nursing, you have lots of ideas. And as my husband said, this is the idea that stuck. And it really ironically came from that combination of being, in this community of mom entrepreneurs, but also was reading this article about technology for good. And I'm like, man, we really need to do more good things with technology. And so I knew that that's the route I wanted to go. I knew if I wanted it to be on a big scale, I had spent so much time in online business with all of these solo entrepreneurs, but it also spent a lot of time with early stage startup founders and had been at Postmates. And I knew there was money that could go into these companies and help them scale at a really fast rate. And so I kind of wanted to enter into that world. But I think we have a really interesting thing at Allobee because a lot of those investors and a lot of the world of technology doesn't really tap into this market of solo entrepreneurs and online business owners. They don't really know about you guys. Like it cracks me up. I like tell stories of you and other people. And I'm like, do you guys realize what big of businesses these people are building? And they're not building solutions for you either. And so it's interesting, you know, and so there really is, the pandemic has been interesting because I've seen these worlds collide and see them really starting to pay attention to one another in many different ways. But no, I really had no idea where it was going to go. I just had a lot of faith behind it. And I pitched it at Seattle Startup Week in the fall of 2018 to a whole room full of men, predominantly young techies, and they didn't boo me off the stage. I came in second and they were interested. And I said, okay, that's enough to push me a little bit further. And I just kept showing up for the last 2 years. And it's been hard, like really hard at times. But more and more people started to believe in the idea. And now I feel like it grows every day. And now we're like I told you, we are about to close our first round of funding. And now we have people that believe in us enough to give us a lot of money, to be able to make this scale and get more moms jobs, which is really exciting.
I love that. I wrote down what you said. You just kept showing up. Like, I don't know that can be like emphasized enough. Like literally that's why you're here. And I think it's so easy to overcomplicate business and strategies. One of my friends, Alex Elliott, you know, and this isn't her quote, when I say it, you'll realize that, but she always says this about business, like all roads lead to Rome. There's not just one way to build a business, but you will never get to Rome if you keep jumping, you know, it's like, you just have to keep showing up and you'll get there. And so I love that. Now you mentioned like, it's been really hard. Do you want to unpack maybe a couple of those hardships?
Yeah. I mean, I think as a mom, you obviously are going to always have the guilt that comes along with, you know, running a business. And so that is definitely one of the areas that I would say it can be really hard. There's times I'm working, you know, late in the afternoon. I try to take a break for when my kids get home from school from 3 until after they go to bed, but that doesn't always happen. Like today I have a later call right now. My husband's picking up the kids, but it's gotten better over time as I've been able to make more money, or we've been able to raise funds. I've been able to have more childcare, which has helped to support it. But I think the hard is really on you and this happens for all solo entrepreneurs, especially. And it's really the same as a solo founder. And even when you have a small team, is everything's on you and it all comes down to you. And so there's no like other person, like I know we were talking, you have to make the decisions. You have to make these hard choices. And we've had to fire people. We've had to make really big pivots at really inopportune times. We've had to, you know, I've put a ton of money into this business. I've sacrificed a lot of time with my family and with my husband to do this as well. And so I think the ultimate is really what I like to tell people when it is hard is filtering things out. So I heard a talk from Mindy Grossman, who is the CEO at WW Weight Watchers right now. And she said that you have to put everything through a filter for your business. And I kind of do that for my business and for my life. Like if it is not essential, I have to say no to it. And it's really hard to say no, especially when it's like you think that opportunity might lead to something. But there's a season that you have to say yes to a lot of stuff and just being able to balance that. But taking care of yourself and being very self-aware. I was listening to a call yesterday about emotional fitness for founders. And one of the elements is self-awareness. And that's kind of the number one. And I think that that's something I've had to get really in touch with, is just focusing on being self-aware, but also continuing to be curious, and also making sure that I'm taking time for myself and saying no. Like our team is really big about not working on the weekends. That's something that I've claimed. I work like a crazy person during the week, but on the weekends, we like, okay, I'm going to take the whole day. Like I'm not going to do any calls. I'm not going to do anything. I will probably work late in the evening or maybe early in the morning when the kids are not around. But we don't chat on the weekends with our team. And I think that that's really important to close those boundaries to keep yourself sane.
I love that so much. So you mentioned some big pivots. Obviously, there are probably some I'm not aware of, but most recently that I've seen at least is that you guys rebranded. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the non-sexy part about the rebrand is that search engine optimization, SEO, is not on our side because a lot of people have the name Momentum. And so even within a 30-mile radius of my house, there are 10 different businesses that have the name Momentum. So we knew it was kind of coming, and we just wanted it to be kind of the right time and kind of feel like, a good time to start. We also really wanted a blank slate because we had shifted from being products and services. So we were kind of Etsy and services, shifting into full services only. And we also were forward facing. So it was very much like an Upwork or Fiverr, where you could list your service or product on our platform with your price and all of that, your profile. And we found through all of our research from basically January until May or late March that our clients didn't want that. That it was too much decision fatigue. They don't have time. So our ideal client has decision fatigue, is time poor. They're spending over 40% on non-revenue generating activities. They're very busy. And so they didn't have the time to figure out who they wanted to hire. No time. And so they were like, we'd rather you handhold us through this process and vet the people, make sure they're good, and tell us who we should hire. And we're going to trust you. It was not what I thought. That wasn't my original hypothesis. So we literally, and this is another reason why you should just ship it, is I spent almost a year developing a very great platform that I coded myself and spent a lot of time on. And almost overnight, we flipped it into a very simple platform that I redid in a weekend. And that's when our company took off. And that's just what happened, because we finally were really listening to what our people wanted. And when we really listened to that, that's when things started to really change and pivot. And it's also why we're very different than our competition, because we're paying attention to what our specific market wants instead of paying attention to what everybody that hires a freelancer wants.
I love that. And I hope that everybody's paying attention, because you might not have, investors and an online platform and coding and whatever, but even at the freelancing level, if you don't know what your ideal clients are looking for, you can't use the messaging to attract them to you. And like Brooke was saying, maybe when she started, in hindsight's 2020, right? But this is why you got to keep showing up and paying attention, is like, she was maybe trying to appeal to too many people. It sounded like a great idea. It was awesome. It was like, we'll serve these people, but it's the same at freelancing. If you show up trying to be everything to everybody, you're nothing to no one, right? These are just basic lessons that I love that you're sharing this, because even at your level and with the kind of company you've created, it's still applicable. It's the same thing.
Oh, it is. And I always tell founders that know nothing about freelancing and the online business, I was like, I learned so much more in my 5 years of doing that than you probably learned at Stanford, Harvard, or whatever else you did, because I was actually doing it on a daily basis. And so I learned marketing. I learned everything myself, not only about how to code. And that's been just invaluable, because I was able to bootstrap our company for a long time and also just be able to relate to a lot of our clients that come in. That's been a huge thing. And then the name, I always I love the name that we've changed it to. It has a cool story. So I'll tell that in a second, but we needing that blank slate. So sadly, and a lot of people don't always look at moms as being experts in different categories. And so we had a huge pushback from outside clients coming in going, are you sure your moms are highly qualified? Are you sure? And predominantly actually from women, which is very interesting to me. But as soon as we changed it to, instead of saying moms, and took out Momentum and we put expert, we had a huge increase in sales, as well as a huge increase in male clients that came to us, which also, when we did this whole switch, we, really talked to our experts about what did they want, are they okay with this? They were a big part of the decision, but we had an interesting conversation with them too, because they said that when they show up to work, they want to be looked at not just as a mom, as an expert. They wanted to feel that way because they really were stepping into that. So it really worked in so many ways. But our name, Allobee, is a total made up name, but with that same respect, the combination of it is not. So allo comes from allo parenting or allo mothering, which is what elephants do. So when an elephant mother has a baby, the whole elephant tribe takes care of that baby and helps to take care of that baby, not just while the mother heals, but all throughout its life. And we really look at what we do at Allobee is that we take care of your business hive, your business baby from the beginning all the way as it grows and changes. So we help you with that. And then also the bee element. I really love bees. And I think that they're very underestimated as a little creature. And they can do so many things and they're really important. But also our bees, our individual experts are all from all different backgrounds, but they work together to help build these business hives for our clients. So that's where the name Allobee came from. And we are really trying to strive to help businesses build from whether you're just starting out and only have a few $100s to, devote to outsourcing all the way up to clients that are paying $50,000 for a client or for a project. So we really see the importance of being able to outsource in the early days. And that was something that I didn't have when I was starting out. So
I love that. And I mean, there's a lesson in there for everybody listening too. Like if you're sitting there waiting for your website to be perfect or your logo to be perfect or the name of your business to be perfect, like you're going to be waiting for forever. I mean, Brooke was at this for over a year before, it was like, okay, we need to pivot because this pivot will make us more successful. But she wouldn't have known that if she didn't keep showing up. I love that. We're going to make that the name of this episode because it's so good.
And that's where the name Momentum originally came from, because I always felt like, especially as a mom, you have to keep showing up for your kids. Like you don't have a choice. You have to keep showing up. And every day you gain a little bit more momentum. And even when it's a horrible day, you still have to
learn
showing up. And the same thing that I feel about. So momentum is still very much in our DNA.
Yes. Yes. I love that so much. Well, something I ask all of our guests, Brooke, is tangible takeaways. So I'm all about the action, the implementation, like inspiration is glorious, but it's not going to get us to move out of our chairs.
No.
So 3 things I would love to hear from you, because I think both in your business, but also in your freelancing experience is, what are 3 ways that a freelancer can stand out? Now, I know your platform's switched, so it's not outward facing anymore, but you did live through those days and you lived through your own freelancing business. And that's what most of the people listening today, that's what they're either doing or aspiring to do. So what are 3 tips that you have for that freelancer to really stand out and be able to grow their small business?
And you still can stand out on Allobee because all of our jobs that come in directly through the website you're connected through our algorithm. So that one is very streamlined. But for our bigger projects that we bring people onto, we handpick who comes onto it. So our experts that have really gone the extra mile as a freelancer and have stood out, we are going to come to you.
So what are you looking for?
Yes. And you guys are going to be, and many of them are free mamas, actually. So that definitely you've helped them stand out. But one thing is just really client satisfaction, and just even if you screw up, owning it and just making it right with the client, like just making it right. That will always do you good long term. So that's one way to stand out, because even that client, even if they got a bad taste at first, but you fixed it, they're going to think you're great in the end and it's going to be okay. Another thing as a freelancer, obviously to keep showing up, but just keep putting yourself out there. Like just put yourself out for different things that even if you feel like you're not, and I've talked to obviously lots of freelancers about this, but even if you don't think you're a perfect fit, just like if you're applying to a regular 9-to-5 job, you're not going to fit everything on a resume or a job description. That's the reality. I don't expect that someone that applies to the jobs that we just posted is going to fit every qualification. But take a gamble on it and put yourself out there and try and see if you can be the one that shows up and is different and can get the job. So those are my 2. And then my 3rd one would be to diversify your skill set. I think that was something that I did early on as a freelancer that I really am glad I did. I had web development experience, but those projects take a long time. So I learned more just with design, and I learned some graphic design, and I learned some copy, and I just started learning more and more skills. So I could take on all kinds of different jobs, or I knew enough of who I should subcontract to or what I should do in my own business, and I didn't have to pay for it to be done. So diversifying your skill set is really important. And right now, because of the pandemic, get a lot of tech skills. And I know these sound scary, and I talk about this to all of our freelancers, and I talked a bunch of them into doing a technical apprenticeship with me. But it's valuable. It's so valuable right now. It's the future. And you can take all of your skills and put them into a great package for the future.
I love that. I have one more question for you. But before I get to that, I want to let everybody know that if you are attending Free Mama Live, you are going to get to hear from Brooke again this week. We'll talk more about how she works from home, how she manages that. She already told you she's a workhorse during the week. She gave you some little glimpses, but we're going to really be able to dive into that and take some of your questions as well. So keep a lookout on the schedule so that you can hear more from Brooke. You obviously are very familiar with the Free Mama, and you work with several Free Mamas, I know. So our mission is to make sure that no mother has to choose between family and financial stability. Knowing that and kind of what we've talked about today, is there one last piece of advice that you would like to give our listeners that maybe you haven't gotten to share yet today?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. Give yourself grace and know that it's not going to be immediate success. And be okay with the in-between. There's a journey to get there. Lauren didn't have overnight success. I didn't have, as you've heard, like my story started a long time ago, and then now it is where it is. And really building this company has been like 7 years. So really just give yourself grace. Things will change. I had no childcare at the beginning. Now my kids are in school most of the day. Just know that they're just as much as everybody says the days are long and the years are short. That's exactly how it is for business too. So just knowing that, and take a gamble on it. If you feel a tugging that you need to be a free mama and that's what you want to do, or you just got laid off or you got pushed out of the workforce, like there are other options. And I wish someone had told me that a long time ago. And here's my kid to prove that.
Oh, that's so great. We're leaving this into, hi guys. Oh, I wish you guys could see their faces. This is the best.
Oh God, this is Lauren. That's my friend.
Hi. For anybody who wants to learn more about Allobee, maybe they are a free mama and they have no idea about your platform. What is the best way for them to learn more and maybe be able to be one of the freelancers that you recommend?
Yes, you can go to allobee.com, and that's where you can find everything. Yes, Allobee. You also can find us on Instagram at hireallobee.com, or Hire Allobee is our thing for every social media.
Awesome. And if they are a graduate of the 12-week program, are they still getting that little certification?
Yes. So they can, if they're in the Free Mama movement, they can go straight into our vetting program. So we still vet everybody, but you get a pass off of our wait list into vetting and then into onboarding.
Awesome. Brooke, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing your children to our interview. It makes me so happy.
Of course. Well, it was so good to chat with you. Good luck on the move.
Thank you. All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Free Mama Radio. Don't forget to check out Free Mama TV right here on YouTube for hundreds of how-to videos and interviews to help you start, grow, and scale a virtual business from home. If you want to join a community of tens of thousands of moms just like you, make sure you join the Free Mama Movement group over on Facebook. And lastly, if you want to learn more about how we can do this together, work to achieve your goals, and make you our next success story, check out my free training at thefreemamamovement.com. I'll see you next time.